Hi, my name's JustJasen. That was my sorry attempt at an attention-getting intro. New Super Mario Bros. Is weird, partly because that sentence could mean two things. Am I talking about New Super Mario Bros., the game, or New Super Mario Bros., the subsection of the 2D Mario series? That mix-up is essentially the point of this video, as I believe that New Super Mario Bros., the original game for Nintendo DS, gets dragged down by all the subsequent games. This series has been talked to death at this point, and I agree with the general consensus that they're not bad games, just painfully bland. Except for the original, which I will now refer to as DS, which is a major exception. So let's take a look back at DS and give it some praise after it's been mostly overlooked. And be sure to like and subscribe to help me survive the impending vampire apocalypse. First of all, let's talk aesthetics, which might actually be the most important category in this conversation. The new series is known for presenting the most basic version of Mario. None of the funk from the early games, or the specialized vibes of Sunshine or Galaxy. Nope, New Super is just Mario traveling through 8 worlds of platforming fun, with exactly what you'd expect from that. I can't completely absolve DS of blame, as it certainly set the foundation for that future. While making thumbnails for this, I looked at the renders for this game and they are just painfully generic. Honestly, I think the box art in particular is really unpleasant with how it mixes these renders with flat colored versions of the terrain. Whereas for the actual in-game graphics, they're still really charming. The mix of 2D sprites with 3D models looks cool, and the sprite work itself is detailed. Most of this footage is upscaled, but on original hardware the 2D and 3D blend very well. The style is just overall very pleasant and still unique today. And as far as environments go, even though they're a pretty standard selection of world themes, there's some unique ideas to be found, like this cool sewer level that's randomly in World 2, or how the final world starts out as a haunted forest before going into the lava theming. Plus, we have to keep in mind this is the first time we'd seen a lot of these themes since the Super Nintendo, or even just the first time, period. This is the first Mario for Poison Jungle, for instance. The enemy designs are very similar in this regard. You have the normal group of Mario enemies, but this game also introduces quite a few original characters who wouldn't be seen again. Like Snailcorn, who's only in 2 levels. He's a weirdo. Or these mysterious floating fingers, who are less enemies and more a helpful guide. Bruiser is a cool design that adds a bit of muscle to the ghost house. A lot of other enemies are a bit more derivative, so it makes sense that these exact designs wouldn't appear again, but there's still something appealing about a lot of these guys. Maybe that blocky DS art style is doing a lot of heavy lifting, but I much prefer Spike Bass to Porky Puffer. While we're on the topic of enemies, let's start the gameplay discussion with the boss fights. The 2D Mario games, for both before and after DS, struggle pretty hard with the boss fights. Even Mario Wonder, which is just a paragon of creativity, consists entirely of Bowser Jr. fights. I think the developers end up in a difficult spot because, compared to a lot of other side-scrollers, Mario doesn't always have a method of attack, and his moveset is just running and jumping basically, compared to something like Mega Man or Shovel Knight, where there's more complex methods of attack. So Nintendo usually just slap a magic slinging Koopaling at the end of a world and call it a day. DS is different. It still has a fair share of Bowser and Bowser Jr. fights, but most of the castle fights end with an original enemy. It still amounts to jumping on them at the right time, but I find all of their attacks fun to dodge. And even just being unique on an aesthetic level is enough to make them way more interesting. Monty Tank especially stands out as a great fight, and I always love to see Petey Piranha. Not to mention that in order to access 2 of the optional worlds, you have to beat 2 of them in mini mushroom form, which is a great challenge. All around it's good stuff with the bosses, which is something you can rarely say about the 2D Marios. As for the actual levels, they're well designed. Because they don't have to account for multiplayer like Wii and Wii U eventually had to, the screen is more compact. This helps to balance the length, so the levels aren't too long, but also not too short. While a lot of them can be easily breezed through, towards the end the difficulty does get turned up a bit, and it remains engaging throughout. I especially like this snake block segment in the World 7 Castle, which is a very good set piece. Likewise, a lot of the obstacles in this game are fun to platform on. The way these mushrooms move look like something that would have come straight out of Wonder, and this giant wiggler is the exact same. These metal spike balls get oddly put to a lot of good use throughout the game, whether they're on chains or rolling on land. I just like a lot of the obstacles in this game. They're fun and visually interesting. Not to mention the introduction of star coins, which were probably the best innovation in this game. These make the levels more replayable, and are usually found in a secret or challenging spot. As a currency, they act as a sort of auto-balance. Players who are having a harder time can use them to get more items or 1-ups, but pros can jump straight to accessing the alternate paths, or just hoard them until the end of the game where they can spend them all on bottom screen themes, whatever floats their boat. Speaking of the world map, I don't think there's much to say on it, but I think it strikes a good balance between choice and linear sequences of level. Not as appealing as Mario 3, World, or Wonder, but way better than, say, Mario Land 2. I will say, I was surprised how many alternate and secret paths they were able to cram in, considering the size of them. That's about all I have to say on the main campaign. DS manages to avoid a lot of the pitfalls that became associated with New Super Mario Bros., so it honestly deserves a lot more credit for how creative it actually is. But we're not quite done with everything in this game yet, because DS features two of the most worthwhile side modes in the entire series. First of all, we have the incredible touchscreen minigames. Technically, these were made for Mario 64 DS first, and then got slammed into this game. But come on, Luigi Poker. It's amazing. Plus, they did introduce completely new versus minigames, where you play against another player. I haven't actually gotten to play these, but they seem really fun. One of them is straight up Luigi Blackjack. And then, of course, there is still the eternal classic, Mario vs. Luigi, where you and a friend duke it out for starters. I remember this mode causing me to get way too loud at recess in elementary school. But it really is still a lot of fun, and inspired an excellent fan remake. So yeah, I guess what I'm getting at is, DS has a lot to like in it, and it's unfortunate it gets completely lumped in with the other new Super games. I definitely don't prefer it to 3, Wonder, or plenty of other 2D platformers, but it's still a solid time and can be fun to blaze through. Now, with the review out of the way, how the hell are they going to re-release this thing? Hell, not just this thing, all of these things. And I just don't mean slap it onto a Switch Online DS emulator released. No. I mean something I can buy at Walmart. This series may have the least future-proof naming scheme of all time. Hell, it's the opposite of future-proof. It is actively made to decay. They put new in the title. Did they forget that the constant march of time can't be avoided? Please, this has been keeping me up for weeks. Mario, return my emails, I am begging you.